Greens are reluctant to take a position on sensitive issues. They have just as many views and opinions as anyone else. Or they don't like shouting them from the rooftops. The reason is simple, it can cause a fuss. The consequence of this tendency is a rather abstruse manner of expressing themselves instead of saying that's impossible. They may respond with something like, it appears there are few challenges in Gilbert that is sure both mean the same thing. We won't manage to do it in the time. But by using a list meaning of expression, you have a few risks, you have a clear distance or something that you have to stand up for. And during that, I could a few challenges on during that. For a green, it's better to be safe than sorry by expressing himself ambiguously. He ever taking responsibility for the matter in question. He doesn't take a risk. He's good enough if he is certain. If he hasn't taken a position in support of something, he also hasn't taken a position on something. You hear how illogical this sounds, right? But if you agree, you know exactly what I mean. Oh, I made once said that's typically what everyone is believing. What are greens possible? What are greens possible from players just because they want to save a relationship? No, not at all. Greens just aren't as precious at all because when the Red said that he absolutely is listening to him. The green will say that he remembers better since but someone in blue says that he has lost 5 pounds since last shift morning at 10:03 or green says that he lost 2 pounds complete. So we ignored not as a tax or retracted and Christians speak about words in the same way they want to other speak about social activity. It make it more difficult to precise how we measure a feeling saying I love you exactly because we never last month. Green are the uh, relationship and feeling guys. I know I can change this immediately, but I will just think about it for a while. Here we have the most typical stumbling block if you want to make sense in a group instead of making against good luck. If it's a good measure change or you should consider whether it's a really worth the effort. If it's urgent, you can water the whole thing. This is what happens in the brilliant mind. Here we have the most typical stumbling block. If you want to make sense in a group of communicating good luck, if you want to consider whether it's really worth the effort. You can water the whole thing. This is what happens in the film mind, what I have bought not what I will get. I pursue better people never done this with the glass on the other side. I know what I have got, not what I will get. It was better before. It was never done this way, but the class is not always clear on the other side. Sometimes the sure not all things are for the better, but let's be reasonable. I'm not saying that it's always wrong to express sentiment. Once that necessary, it can be very dangerous. A classic cliche auditor who now I know it is considered how often you change where you sit at the breakfast table. How often you change where you sit at the breakfast table. I used to ask the question in the group I met. When you smell I said they said what they usually sit because it's happens. So I do the same thing. Find out if someone was about out I was still maybe you have it. I will do something about it. However, also correct himself. When you like in a reaction to the person, you understand what we face with the problem. I have had a scenarios become white in the face, wiping the forehead at the minute thought of sitting on the other side of the table. I will move to the main issue where the source of place long time looking air that if you do not follow vision is totally devastated. Shrouded in sheer darkness, soon highlighted the dawn's body of making it that every day at months and weekend, week, out months and year, and always the same chair. If he came into the dining room and saw this spot was occupied, he would stop short. If he saw this quickly, he will turn towards the back of location, not as good but still an acceptable shot near window. If he was fortunately had his suit there, he would glare throughout the meal at how they had new his food. Of course, he never said anything, so he just stuck the rest of the dishes and the thing did something to come frustration inward and feel also that they were noticed it. If since back to store was also occupied, he would just go back into the kitchen the rest of his day as well. Let me give you another example. My mother departed but never forgotten, will never stop loving you. Our dieting mother was not enough green, was always willing to help and took care of her grandchildren whenever needed, especially when they were little. I remember one of my wife and never enjoyed one again on pregnant. I asked my mother to wash the kids with in advance because I knew that she needed to time to meet people to also for it. On the day that dinner was to take place, the test called her husband was sick and the whole thing was postponed. When I come home, I listened to her what happened. But would be staying home at that night. She will complete. I will say that she went to come over with her website. She will so much to do what will happen now. She asked. I said that it will be this that we had planned to do because our jackets second the guesting was ready. It will be perfect. It will be the she is frequently continue to come now we are at home. So first of all, he changes. She need return to the institute to come there. Actually, not to outside the plan necessarily. No change for her at all. She going to stay overnight between Friday and Saturday. She will still see again. She will however, I would have an engagement with her and I try to convince her that we will take care of her for once instead of taking care of us. This was a completely new situation for her. We were still there in the house. And that was the problem. My wife and I would be there. Maybe mom and I had on how to sit on the watching particular show on television. Since I thought about putting us swimming for this maybe I don't know. She was said anything about it so we can know first about to change the situation of who warrant a certain time thinking time for all. In the organized side to be quite possibility to in the matches or at a half past 2. Yeah, why don't solely die because I had to finish to be at 5 o'clock and I read I was at half an hour early one civil or relations 4 o'clock. Never been so upset about the concert, don't say anything to anyone. This is the second major dilemma with being behavior the square well. This aversion to conflict also cause many challenges such as stubbornness, ambiguity, and restriction. Because feelings are pronounced to be some people more things more equal to than keeping a relationship together. So that the method doesn't work. You can read the conflict into the first way is called the harmony outlook or striving for more harmony. Absent depends on being on good terms with other reaching an agreement is an intending this means that goes with thus conflict are problematic troublemakers conflict are integrated to poor relationship poor communication and discord and now with smoother conflict is between that it does exist because we want to be required with troublemaker. I once met a coach who used an interesting metaphor for this kind of behavior. She said it was like sitting at a dinner table with a root by the class in the middle, the root molten flies and everything. Everyone sees the trash is there, but no one sees anything. You brush away the flies and pass the food as crystalline clear. Find banana peels without thinking anything about it. Maybe by the evening someone won't test the review by the class on the table at all. Anyone at the dinner table guest says we have to do something about this that wasn't to manage because we have to deal with this 90 minutes of the has a skill point. खाई सक्यो नि त
के पढे त्यहाँनिर
यतिकै
खाइसके भा
अँ
मासु खाइन
खाइन साग र दुध खायो साग दुध भात nowadays मासु तताइदिन्छ त्यहाँ खाइसक्नु भएको भात पनि टल्ने छ दाल छ nowadays we know better this expression of having an agreement about everything all the time is not even worth trying to achieve टाउको दुख्यो भने चाहिँ someone will take the lead of all the discord that was so effectively and hermetically sealed for such a long period of time and what happens then this thing for a long way off in the harmony of two negative needs to complete. The same way and the opposite to the positive of the conflict outlook, it basically means that we accept that conflict exists at its nature, no group exists where everyone is always in agreement about everything. The whole point of conflict outlook is to deal with a relatively set an issue or as soon as it source system. Creates and also some ambiguity in acceptable. This is something that doesn't work, this was said it doesn't work. This means that problem can be resolved in our district, but we have to deal with it within district. The conflict approach usually creates harmony. But a green will just turn on deaf ear with everything about to maintain that magical feeling that everyone is in everyone. It's natural when everyone agrees in everyone the world is so much better there is no conflict. Consider situation of all of us have experienced at some point. Wherein छ बाबा जति नि त्यही साइडमा हेर्छ त कचौरामा कचौरा ठुलो कचौरामा खा के ठुलो कचौरामा खा ठुलो कचौरा वी आर इन मिटिङ एट वर्क ए त्यही हो ए ठुलो कचौराको मैले खाएको हो ठुलो कचौरामा चाहिँ मैले आधी आधी गरेको थिएँ कि त्यहाँ There are maybe 10 people present in the room and or subtract something so that you can recognize the situation. Someone, the boss or anyone at all had complete the presentation and now asks what everyone is thinking. Polar expectation of reacts are waiting for feedback. If there are any reacts are in the room, they will speak about the reason proposed the question. The red will not be taught to think the yellow will speak about their own question on the proposal. One or two we might have a few questions. होइन भित्र त्यहीँ सिलिन्डर माथि छ What do the Greens do? Absolutely nothing. They just lean back in their chairs and read themselves as a proposal. They say nothing at all, only ask a direct question. के भयो? They look anxiously around, hoping that someone will say that this proposal is in fact an incomprehensible mess. The group is to laugh for them to throw out an dissenting opinion. This completely dramatic or negative would mean that everyone else will be on you. And that's not going to happen if you say what they are really thinking or heated debate will erupt. And since the Green doesn't want to take part in the debate, he doesn't even want to be in the same race or nothing, simply keep silent. How will the speaker respond? He will assume that everyone is in agreement, right? What he doesn't know is the half the people in the room think it was a stupid thing that ever heard. If the truth creeps out, it has to sooner or later guess what happens. Then it's generally conflict. You can be certain that while you are standing at the coffee machine and maybe even while visiting the restroom, the truth will come out. One wins need to release the pressure of not now they talk behind their back. In a small group of 2 or 3 people, they will gladly bend their displeasure and they are good at it as long as they think they can escape your gaze. They will backbite you in ways you will never expect it from me. How you people are perceived, even persons view individual receive criticism. It can be about how they are perceived as evasive, defensive, perfectionist, reserved, fastidious, meticulous, hesitant, conservative, lacking independence, questioning, suspicious, tedious, aloof and cold-hearted. This list of shortcomings found in this bastion of literature contains to be quite long. But many blues find it difficult to begin anything new because they want to prepare very thoroughly. Everything involves lyrics and blues can be almost obsessed with detail, never place too many blues in the same group. They were planning to the next century without ever putting us over to the ground. Other women views the participants are critical and was frustrated, they miss nothing and they have a tendency to deliver the observation in an insensitive fashion. Affected quality work brought at their hearts, fitting critical approach to everything lower the moral approach around them dangerous low level. These are people who consider themselves to be really shown. They in everyone is and fit pessimistic. 95% right is actually 100% wrong. This one is from the start. All this keeping track of facts and focus on details can go too far. There are limits to when it's reasonable to keep researching. Do you remember the CEO who wanted to buy leadership training? He never left the starting block. Blues can want to have all the information and everything and this can lead to runs with those around them. People who will be satisfied. People who would be satisfied with good enough simply can't cope with hearing all this question and all this relentless poking into details. A blue believes that good enough is never really good enough. I enjoy working around the house, changing the decor, hanging wallpaper every now and then. A few years ago, we remodeled our kitchen, and even though I got tremendous help from my family, I did quite a lot myself. I worked and told and was quite happy when it was finished. For a DIY year, I thought I managed it quite well. And a good friend of mine came by. We've known each other for many years and he's very much on the ball. He knew that I worked very hard and that I felt quite pleased with myself. When he came into my kitchen, he looked around and said quietly, "New kitchen looks good, the cupboard door is screwed." Okay, so maybe it wasn't nice to hear that, but for Hans it was the highest form of logic. He observed a mistake and his sense of perfection means that he could not ignore it. Besides, he is not a typical relational person, so he could not help saying anything as they were. He wasn't directly criticizing me, only something I had done, namely not fitting the cupboard door straight. Fastidiousness can be expressed in various ways. It can be a person who can't cope with papers that aren't perfectly aligned on a desk, who rewrites an email about 15 times to get it truly perfect, or who works for hours on simple Excel spreadsheet or PowerPoint presentation just to giving it the finishing touches. They never finish anything, there are always more to do. Once I was holding a communication training program for a group of people, all of who were working in the same room. The group consisted of about 20 people. The first reaction I handed out the result of this behavior analysis that each of them had taken earlier. Everyone did about themselves with increasing fascination and most of them seemed very satisfied. Except for one lady, she was extremely upset by her analysis. It was in fact completely incorrect. After conferring with her that it was okay to discuss it in front of whole group, I asked her what she was displeased with. There's so much that's incorrect. She told us, for example, the analysis revealed that she could be perfectionist. She wasn't like that at all. I noticed the tiny smile appearing on people's face, apparently or it knew something she didn't. I asked her why she thought that the analysis meant she was a perfectionist. She had no idea. The whole thing was completely mystery. It was totally useless too. Realizing that women must be, I was careful not to argue too much. She will not take me at my word. I was just a random consultant who had been working with this tool for measly 20 years. What did I know? Instead, I asked her to give an example showing that she was not a perfectionist. No problem. She had plenty. For example, she had 3 children, each of who had 3 best pals. When she came home in the evening, there were so many shoes piled up inside the front door that she had to do the high jump to get in. She began by shaking the dot of the doormat and putting the shoes in order. She confided me that she used to put size 10 at the back as those guys went home last, so it seemed more logical. She placed the small size close to the door in the neat drawers. When she went into the kitchen, what did she see there? Crumbs everywhere. All of this monster had been eating sandwich and the kitchen looked like a war zone. It took her 20 minutes to sanitize everything, but put everything back in place with white and tables and worktops. Only then could she take up her coat and relax a little. Her colleague were in stitches. The woman looked around, not understanding what the excitement was all about. That any of this could even be remotely obsessive was beyond her. Her house was so untidy That was her point. The funny thing about this story is that a few years later I met the same woman but in totally different context. She gave me a big hug and said that the analysis of behavior was 100% correct, which turned in I wonder how she arrived at the conclusion. It turned out that she had kept the behavior profile in her purse for a while. The analyst had a list of behavior and qualities, and every time she found herself doing one, she ticked it off of the sheet. In the end, she had ticked all of them off. She liked the profile and amazing tool on the whole. I don't really know you, so you keep your distance. You've done it, I've done it, we've all done it. Going up to a person who seems to be decent fellow and you started talking about this and that, thinking you are going to have a nice chat. After a while, you realize that you are the only doing all the talking. If you have allowed traits in a behavior, you may notice that there are strange pauses in the dialogue. If there really is a dialogue, you may notice that the other person feels it a bit, signaling that it doesn't want to be part of this conversation. What's going on? We're just talking about the game yesterday or about what the family did last summer or where you intend to go on vacation. Do we have a problem or what? Yes, in fact, we do because this person doesn't willingly speak to the stranger. Wait a minute, you may say we've been working together for 3 months and by now it will be perfectly okay to ask what the dog name is, but this guy requires a lot of personal space, both physically and psychologically. You need to know a person extremely well before opening up. Not like a red who lets out with her whatever he feels, not like a yellow who reveals the darkest secret we have. Because he assumes that everyone is interested, or like a green who can be personal but only in small group and in a controlled environment. A blue doesn't need small talk. He can easily give the impression that he doesn't care about other people because he doesn't cultivate any relationship. Sure, he cares, but his needs are on different level than everyone else. He likes being in his own company and with immediate family. The consequence is clear for those around him. They find him cold-hearted and distant. The personal bubble is obvious and it can be very cheap, particularly for Aldo and Green. Can easily give the impression that he doesn't take care about other people because he doesn't cultivate any relationship. Sure, he cares, but his needs are on different level than everyone else. He likes being in his own company and with immediate family. The consequence is clear for those around him. They find him cold-hearted and distant. The personal bubble is obvious and can be very silly, particularly for Aldo and Green. And so they call the real friend of both. Blues can easily make us feel ill at ease. Why is so good and dismissive? Doesn't care about me at all. Better safe than sorry. Think about it preferably 3 times. A good family friend could not leave her house without first checking to see if keys were really in the handbag. Even though placing them was the last thing she had done before going to the front door. Back in the 1980s, when I worked as a tailor in the paying class of people who had waited 30 minutes in the line for just one single reason to check that the balance returned the ATM receipt really was correct. Most anticipation, the same computer, the same balance, but you never know. Best to check and double check if triple check had been possible, they would have done it. Where does this need for control come from? Why can blues trust what other people say or just accept the information they hear? And so they can, of course, but if they also check themselves, they all the risks will be limited, right? But the fact means that they don't trust others. Everything has to be confirmed and recorded and documented properly. Remember, we are talking about behavior of perceived by other. Of blue checks everything one extra time because it is possible to check everything one extra time. When everything has been confirmed, then you have just to make a decision. I have good friend who use Excel diligently, but not like the rest of us. This guy has a special method. He writes the formula and insert all the data before he sends any important files to his senior manager. He does a control check of everything using a calculator. Why does he do that? If you were to explain this to a read, he will declare that guy an absolute idiot. Explain it to Al and he will laugh himself to death. And if you will understand the whole thing immediately, there is a theoretical possibility that there could be errors in Excel. Even though he was typing the formula, if something may still go wrong, better to be on the safe side, although other parts of this will wrong. The only thing I can trust is myself and own eyes. The guy who questions Excel has of course a problem explaining himself. Many people around him have their views about this method of always having to double check and triple check everything he does himself and everything everyone else does. They get furious when it through its action clearly shows that he doesn't trust them. The other tiny little problem is that everything takes a terribly long time. This can be managed by working more hours. What's more problematic is the way relationship can suffer because of this habit. How demoralizing it is when you go up to someone to tell him about a possible breakthrough and the first thing the person does is isolate all the different components and call into question every single count. Of course, if everyone looks long enough, they will find mistake. Nor is it even sufficient to be right. You have to prove yourself to a blue. If you consider you an authority in a particular field, you will be better at listening to you. The road, however, can be tricky. I have held many training courses and lectures on this subject, and if there are people who ask computer questions, they are usually engineers, technical sales staff, or financial controller, maybe a handful of tax lawyers. Oftentimes, their color is blue and they are not impressed with me. Just because I have been valuing doing this for 20 years doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. One thing you can do is accept that these people that standard of proof will be much higher. Facts always remain as we know. As I have prepared well and I have concluded what I say is to intangible trust me. Learning new things, how to use what you have learned. Learning something new isn't always the easiest of tasks. It may seem simple, but it's not easy. There is always so much to do, so much to read, and so much to learn. Where do you start? This time is always determined by a personal interest, and it's easier to devote more time to what you are curious about and what you are interested in. Nothing strange there. For me, it was hearing story assessment of people, species, and all the idiots at the start of the book. That became the impetus of me to learn about people and how we relate to one another. What is the company yesterday, first I did with attended training and have been other many times in different subjects. Furthermore, I have read thousands of courses on the subject, so now as a middle-aged man, I believe I have a decent grasp on how people function, but in all reality, I have only scratched the surface. I have only scratched the surface. If we had less time, there will be no problem. All of the journey has taken time. Maybe I don't have the natural instinct that many others have. I don't really know, but I do know a bit about teaching method and how we learn new things. And for me, it's difficult to think of any subject more important than people. No matter what job you have or where life may take you, you are going to meet other people. Also, you can interview both colleague or seller with customer, project manager with people with different expertise and on a management director with employee. A media manager with people who both above and below you know organization or simply going to finding your own sense and order. A parent with teenager in the household or spouse or coach for football team or chair person of the local home and school association. There is no limitation to how it is. This knowledge can be applied. Understanding people will always remain a crucial factor in achieving your goals in life as possible, no matter what these goals are. Take a look at the diagram of the next page. This is new, but it says a lot about how theoretical knowledge transforms into real competence. It is one thing I am glad that you are reading this one. It's very good week of your own learning was only the first to learn something. My mission is clear. I want more people to understand this method of clarifying behavior. So much conflict could be avoided if we just understood why the people around us behave the way they do. I have nothing against conflict. It usually doesn't bother me because I know how to handle it. But when people tear down and destroy more than they build up, I believe that we should be able to find other ways forward. Life considers so much more than learning from your mistakes. Some mistake can be you can able to altogether. A language like any other language. The language this would discuss a DISA language IPD, the Institute of Personal Development, which is the official name, looks like any other language from learning. If you have ever studied Spanish or German school, then you know that what I'm talking about. To study for exam is one thing, to be able to really speak fluently is different matter. It's not enough to special knowledge once a year just to speak
Tahu
fluently.
Sakhandas.
If you really want to be able to speak Spanish more than German, so there is no one, but you don't need to speak, but you need to practice it. Face over community, there are no shortcuts. Of course, alternatively, you can go out in the world and happily exchange with the people you meet. I advise you to do so. In the beginning, the challenge will be that you are going to guess incorrectly or equal personality, and that may result in certain degree of embarrassment. But as soon you become more fluent in the language, it will transform you how you react in the people around you. Why, how you move matters, how do you really look. A different color exhibit different type of body language in addition to all the things you say and do. You present a certain type of body language to the people around you. People pick up this body language and use it to interpret it more. So let's take a closer look at how we move. Body language refers to all forms of non-verbal communication, conscious as well as unconscious. Difference in body language vary both between individuals and between different group of people. Our body language also functions as social and cultural marker even if there are common biological foundations. The modern English language contains over 170,000 words, of which 5,000 are used regularly in comparison according to certain words. Body language contains several hundred thousand signals. Yes, we can debate the exact number, but that's not the point. Just understand that there are an immense number of signals, more than we may be aware of. I'm going to examine all the signals, but I wish it's interesting to see what the difference are between different behavior profiles. To remember our system, whatever we feel are also that influence on our body language. Posture. If on the one hand you have a relaxed nature, personal track posture, often people often got the impression that you are self-confident. If on the other hand you have a strong posture, it can be interpreted as resistance and disappointment. If you have an erect, somewhat wooden posture, people can limit the signal domination in other words, you will limit the from those around you. But it to be an indication that you are trained as a military academy. We use the eyes for many different things. If the eyes generally shows that the person's expression would rather be somewhere else. অতএব immediate gaze is really without any posture right now. We use our gaze for many different things. Shift the eyes and research for the person in question, we rather be somewhere else. Other people meet their gaze steadily without even blinking. This creates a total different impression. It says that liars can look you in the eye and they often shift the gaze to the side. Person space is commonly known as revolving. Having liars, though most of them have learned to stay straight in the eyes when they are lying, so nothing is there obvious. When something is popular on film, it lifts the hands up to the face, and only thing you need to think you often close your eyes and boil. Bullshit. Head and face. When speaking, usually either nod or shake our heads, depending on whether we agree or not. When we listen extra carefully to a discussion, we can lean our head to one side. Wrinkling your forehead can signal sadness or depression. When we are amazed at something, we often raise our eyebrows while we turn our brows and say things we are in front of. When we face and 43 one that is considered this argument in countless ways. Yes, this is true classic. When rating a person, how do you really have to shake his hand? A simple answer can reveal a lot about a person. Being kind people answer by often in case of so if you have such an answer, it might be a good idea to press a little harder to answer with only for such that a person determine everyone will screw way too hard, becoming more than likely to the wrong category, but everybody will with a lighter plain speech raising in good news is really taking aggressive certain hours to pick at the close removing as a threat. This often indicates that we rather focus on the items or other things. Holding you in class, we can do that often express power and security. One as I said about lies, a more effective way of spotlight to deceive to put the palm of his hand on his chest, probably his might hand over his heart.
मेरो पुलिस निकाल्ने गयो चालु हो भने
Spotlight to notice to put the palm of his hand on his chest.
पुलिस निकाल्ने हो भने चालु एकदम चालु रहेछ
Size indignantly when he is being accused of lying. Would a lie have this case is intended to strengthen his honest intention, but intended to put those around on their guard because it is so unnecessary and excessive. There is definitely something fishy going on there. Territory. It's very important that all the people have their own personal space as everyone needs an area that is among other things, this territory can be the distance you maintain from people only or speaking with them. A personal zone is generally a few feet and the social zone is 3 to 10 feet. Personal zone will mean the space when we two people or each other are communicating. The social zone before the space between the strangers who are communicating with is very one people and the call the speaker. In the not give reason, for example, the personal zone is definitely last than what will someone from nature and would be.
नौ भइसक्यो
18% छ अरे 70 कि 80% छ
कहाँ
हजुरको मोबाइलमा
70%?
ए यार relax the completely real demands system. Direct demand system. So what do you think about all this? How do we the various behavior differ from one another? It is obvious that some well-known facts about body language don't apply to every single person. Someone who is busy picking lint of his sleep might be bored or he might just be nervous. Another example is how people deal with uncertainty. How green which leans backward or red which leans forward. And we should try to dominate the conversation. On the following page, I will show further example of the differences. Try observing people in your life to see if you can find any of the following behavior. Following is very individual. Here, there are these expressions that go throughout the entire world. And among often to say, for example, dictionary in every country. But there are so many differences that you will have to study your fellow motors to sharpen the ability. The following short sections are intended to serve as a simple guide. Some basic to keep in mind about words. They keep the distance from other have powerful heads, lean forward excessively, use direct eye contact, use controlling itself. As I mentioned previously, readers often have a clear and distinctive body language. You can usually recognize the read from a distance. When you walk through large crowd, you will see people swarming around, standing still, conversing with others, or just checking to see what all the police about it. Say that you are looking at down squatting people. If you look really close, you will see a person who is crossing the square at a big space, completely disregarding the people standing in his way. With his gaze fixed on a point of beating form of walking, the rate speed often crosses the square without any problems. He does not give any way, but he makes other to move aside. His steps are decisive and powerfully, except to rest of us to get out of his way. The first time you meet a ready, you will mean the current distance it's going to out, but it will be powerful. The red man or woman will grip a little bit harder to show his charge. Forget over exuberant smiles, his face can be downright grim, especially if you are attending a business meeting or even a social setting gets maintained on resolve. Or it won't give you a big bear hog as nice so the on the connections welfare anything can happen. When things are getting tense, which will happen rather quickly, one word side of the sky within a comfortable and happy his case quite possibly. Like on will be reader his case works on you when most of the time is the power rates have the fingers on trigger right up from the start, be prepared for that. Also be prepared for the to be introduced to guests and for those guests that have to surface can conflict aggressive. Respond that people very ready learn so that it's due to point at the point people listen for something with their particular words. On the red point, by stretching out the hand towards you with a palm facing down. If you want to leave you this try ask someone to point at the way that way, then what how it is. Then also they see the result, but they are not alone in this one. They are more in theater of you. They play the press continuously open to find gaps in the conversation. If they have to wait to experience from you listen to the conversation with a loud voice and simple word. What about our rate tone of voice? It's often strong we hear these people do clear the thing is in our addressing the voice to make it so hard. As much as it takes, of course, even words can be noticed and worried about things, but usually we want to hear this the voice not tremble that much. This will secrets will hide, no matter what. Even the accurate words will sound convincing, no stammer, no stressing finger on the trigger. If you don't listen, they will repeat it one more time but louder in the India is straight through. Speed in speech and deed. As I mentioned earlier, rates are always in a hurry. Quick equals to goodness. Normally, this even applies to speech and action. Action happens at a few days space because speed is the factor many did major success by. It will be all good and a couple of actions when the tools need adjusting. Hello body language. Some simple basic to keep in mind about although they are tactile, are relaxed and jocular. So friendly eye contact with expressive gestures are often composed. Allo's body language is often very open and inviting. He smiles appear constantly even when there's not much to smile about. They joke around a lot and can be very relaxed. When visiting a neighbor, he doesn't know that well. Allo neighbor stays out on a sofa, but this is typical for Allo. But Allo feeling secure in a situation, you can see it is like an open book. The similarity with read is advertised primarily in the tempo. Allo is moved quickly and quite distinctively. They often radiate a strong self-confidence. For some specific way to think for Allo, while Some color don't like having people sit too close with them. Yellow will willingly move up very close. Yellow signs sometimes start talking as we one around 10 minutes or remain doesn't really matter. It depends on what you're feeling and the mood are that they are uncommon for other people when this happens. With the yellow finds very trying, but it's not just the yellow like hugging, it can also be simple from physical contact. A hand place on arm or pat on the leg with no ulterior motive, the yellow just want to reinforce what he said. But a yellow perceives as something natural and spontaneous, other can perceive as an imitation, and of course it can be badly. In general, with yellow there will be jokes all around and countless smiles. Eye contact is no problem, it's intense, cheerful and friendly. Yellow tone of voice, the strong commitment from start to finish to hear from afar, laughter, fun, intensity, enthusiasm, joy, and energy. Generally speaking, good yellow shows empathy very clear there with you either 100% or not at all, and this can be heard in the voice. And because up and down and face improve weaker and intensity, yellow often have a powerful melody in the voice. Speaking no matter what emotion has seized the yellow, it will be noticeable in the voice. Speed in speech and lead. Tempo not quite the same rate of action as straight water decidedly fast pace. When it could say something kind of stumbles upon his words. Only have a really come as to should you can Sarma is what it means was sometimes is incomprehensible. Is a yellow which not simply can keep up with everything they have to say. Prince body language some simple basic people in mind about things they are relaxed and come close act methodically they tend to lean backward is very friendly eye contact come prefer smaller scale gestures. Greens are often but not always sluggish in a body movement. One they complete armors, they have a relaxed body language that extra time complete no impression event, no sorry, crossing of the red or expansion easy. These cases are often less flamboyant and well suited for smaller groups. Greens don't feel that each in easier group so they can become more close and with appearance of Greens often have body language that gives them away. They try to hide their true feeling but don't always succeed. If they are out of balance or feel uncomfortable, it will be visible. When sitting around a table, you can expect that greens will tend to lean backwards with something of a paranoia as they don't really have a problem getting close to people. Just like yellow, they like to touch others. It's a fine as long as they know the person they are touching. You heard some viewer of touching a green who hasn't given a clear sign that he knows you well enough. It's easy to cross the line. They can be protective of the person's space. You often notice when a great works actors or rooms in screens are the complete opposite of rates in many things. To be a point of honor, it's not uncommon that they try to make themselves invisible. The reason they don't want to be center of attention. Green almost always have friendly face. If not, then they are quite neutral. Don't expect any exaggerated response or over experience fitting or little expectant and as such. But the difference will be huge if a green knows you. If he thinks that we are a good friend and he can be very intimate and friendly, if he feels that we have just met each other, well then we just have to wait. Let things come to you with no forces and things time on the cross with relax and become natural. Green boys will never be strong. It's not likely that he will drown out the group. He will have to make a little bit more effort. To knowing teams speaking in front of a larger group, they may do this if you don't have so they will scare through only three of you sitting around the table. Sometimes may affect that Greens don't see the other boundary people in the group.
The volume is generally and can be difficult to hear what they say. For the voice, they always elongated long. The pace will be slow and the duration not at all when I always speaks. Speed in speech and read. Generally, grins have a slower pace than reads and the allos, but not quite as slow as blues. Speak have no value initially if height and tempo reach distance the purpose and the group gains will reduce the speed. It doesn't matter what deadline is. The most important thing is always going to be how people feel. Blue body language, some simple basic tricks to mind our blue. Take people to keep other at a distance, either distant or still. Often have close body language, use direct eye contact with without gestures. There is this way to describe a blue body language to say that he has none. Okay, maybe that is the bit simplistic. What I mean is that there is not much to interpret in a blue, neither his face nor his body gives much away. When I speak about body language to sales people, they usually remind that some people are impossible to interpret. When I ask these are people who sit and properly slow, even moving a muscle in their face, they usually not anything this is remarkable. Everybody talking about blues, a person who don't exhibit much movement or even temperament is really nothing. This is the lack of body language that tells us that we need to know. Many blues can be created and take with an expression this speech. I once heard of you man just say that the return was too close and that we have to agree on the missing plan for 300 pages, not almost in favor of unnecessarily. This is what gives people the idea that blue lacks feeling, but this is necessarily not true. Let me remind you again that blue is not introvert, which is to say most of his emotions simply operating beneath the surface. It also works the other way. Once, many years ago, I saw a lady win $500,000 on television. Behind the camera, her husband has heard a scream for joy. While the radio also said very still, the full smell, the more worst smell and waved his arms around and for a while you have to wonder where that's the one, but the lady also said nothing more than thank you. This was nice. She hardly moved at all. I don't think it was because she was already a millionaire. It was because she was blue. This is simply the way it looks. We make her eyes that she was glad to be the woman. But she don't throw it out only. One day I will call the channel and ask this after recording the because of the registration. When you see blue speaking in front of the house with this tendency to become very evident. Just like green, they have no need to be centered attention. The difference always there while green will like to sing through a float, but blue will be shining hill that with mass while shining completely no sun. And the clues that blue require a relatively large amount of personal space around them. They often feel more comfortable by keeping other at distance necessary to how well they know each other, but something rather than for a local distance. If others come to close, this body language becomes closed. Both arms on liquid will cross, indicating that they are keeping the distance. As I mentioned earlier, blues move less than other and they stand still. They are not that much saying and walking. They can very easily stand in the same spot for a whole hour while giving a lecture. When they sit down, they remain seated more or less in the same position all the time. Constantly they won't use too many starts matching a really outgoing and dynamic figure. And nothing the opposite take away all movement that are needed most of the magnetic views and you begin to get the picture. Eastern face as someone wants to share it. However, please never look to the study in the eyes, they have no problem with eye contact even if it makes author uncomfortable. Though not exactly weak or blue voices. Rest and subdued, they don't take much of a fuss about themselves. Their impression tends to be controlled, coming for them to sound very consideration, waiting in every word before it's allowed to see the light of the day. Generally, this little or no variation in views by the sound were placed at the same other time. Whether it's during the TV guide will bring the acceptance speak to the nation after doing the precedence reaction with mostly the melody is continues to say what's on the script. The musician tend to have difficulty with this, taking everything of uses to back.